Water apple.
Good afternoon to all. Respected Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Ganta Chakrapan sir, and Director Academic, Registrar, respected Professor Vadanam Srinivas sir, Dean Faculty of Social Science, my colleagues in the department, Dr. P. Venkatramana, Dr. P. Raghavendra, and all participants. Mainly today's speaker, Dr. Professor Raghavareddy sir, University of Hyderabad, and all participants, those who are attending the online and offline. A very good morning to everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I thank you all for joining the webinar on the topic philosophy in research. Sir, now I request our Dean Professor Vadanam Srinivas sir, please speak on this webinar.
Thank you, Srimas. Thank you. Respected today's resource person, Professor Raghav Reddy Garu, and Head Department of Sociology, Dr. Srinivas Garu, Dr. Venkatramana Garu, and a colleague in the department, Dr. Raghavendra Garu, and all colleagues in the department and other faculty members, and online participants. Good morning to you all. I welcome you all to this webinar on research, philosophy and research. In fact, sociology is one of the dynamic subjects in our faculty. We prepare course material for our UG learners and PG learners. Through sociology, we are offering UG program and PG program, and also one diploma in gender studies. We prepare meticulously. We worked hard for preparing course material. That is main important component for our learners. Apart from that course material, we provide audio lectures and video lectures, and we conduct teleconferences for our learners. And also we organize some kind of national seminars and international seminars in the Department of Sociology. And apart from that, we organize webinars. Webinars, we invite resource persons, experts from various fields to give lectures on this particular area. After we invite experts all over India, and also we inform all the learners of our university and also general students to sensitize this area. Mainly this kind of webinars under the banner of Open Social Forum we are organizing. In fact, Open Social Forum is a brainchild of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Ganta Chakrapani Garu. We used to organize different kinds of programs under that banner, Open Social Forum. We used to organize lectures in different contemporary issues and subject-related issues. And extensively, we organized that kind of lectures. And also, extension activities also we used to organize in this under the banner of Social Forum. And we visited tribal areas and remote areas of Telangana, and we sensitized the public, and we for our enrollment sensitize for our literary programs, and also particularly and health related issues also we want to sensitize our students and also general public in remote areas, tribal areas under the banner of Open Social Forum. In all faculty of social science, in all departments, under this banner, we are organizing different kinds of webinars. Today, our sociology department friends plan to organize one webinar on philosophy and research. In fact, this is a fundamental aspect of any kind of research, because very important subject. I would like to congratulate my friends in the department for choosing this wonderful topic, because it's a vast topic. It is very much useful for our sociology learners in UG, PG program, and also PhD research scholars also. And in particularly in research scholars also, in diplomas also, we in our syllabus, in our curriculum also, one project report is there. In psychology, psychological counseling, and even international relations, and other all gender studies, and human rights. In all diplomas, we have one project report. In that project report also, they have to prepare one research project. In any aspect of research project, this research philosophy of research is very much important. and particularly different kinds of. Anyhow, our expert is going to explain about positivism and interpretivism, and also pragmatism, and also research, real based research. And in fact, in research philosophy comes, everything comes under this banner, in fact, and from research question to research draft, everywhere, in objectivity, subjectivity, and epistemology, and survey methods, and questionnaire, and analyzing of the topic, particular area, everything comes under this banner. This is a very good topic. I hope this topic is very much useful for our learners, not only in sociology students, other subjects in a faculty of social science. In fact, in general research also, this topic is very much useful. Thank you very much, sir. I would like to express my sincere thanks to Professor Raghav Reddy Garu for giving his precious time to our university. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now I request Professor Raghav Reddy Garu.
No. 1 minute.
Now I request Dr. Venkatramana Garu.
Please introduce the today's speaker.
Thank you, Professor Vadanam Srinivas, sir, Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, and Dr. B. Srinivas, Head Department of Sociology. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our today's speaker, Professor C. Raghav Reddy Garu. Raghav Reddy Garu, University of Hyderabad Department of Sociology Professor ga unnaru. Sir has rich experience in research methodology. Sir has also edited the research methodology course in our UG, and the core areas of Sir is on science and technology, sociology of organizations, sociology of disability, agricultural transition, livelihoods, and different areas. Sir is presently coordinator for Center for Policy Research funded by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He has so many research publications nationally, internationally, and he has published various books, especially on methodology and science and technology. Sir, rich experience will help us in this webinar. Thank you, Raghav Reddy sir, for accepting our request and invitation to be the part of this webinar. And today, sir will speak on the philosophy of research, which will be useful to all the research scholars, and particularly the Faculty of Social Sciences. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the introduction. And at the outset, I thank the Department of Sociology, B.R. Ambedkar Open University, for organizing this event and inviting me to deliver this lecture on philosophy of research. And I particularly thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Ganta Chakrapani Garu, for initiating this program of conducting webinars across departments, and also the Dean, Vadanam Srinivas Garu, Head, and Srinivas Garu, Ramana, and our student and now faculty in your department, Raghavendra, and other faculty colleagues joined online, and students who joined online along with researchers. So when Raghavendra asked me to speak, I thought I had no idea about the audience, and I typically wanted to give a brief intro about research as such. This is what we begin with in our research methods course. How students, basically when you are an undergraduate student and moving to post-graduation, we expect our students to take steps into research. So it is not just a PG course which is occasional and which is oriented towards a job in the field, but rather we encourage them to go for PhD, and in those days MPhil research, etc. for which we not only teach the methods of research, but also we uh, make them to think along the lines of philosophy of research. So thus it becomes an introductory part in the research methods course, wherein we talk about epistemology, positivism, empiricism, and then we move on to the actual methods of research. So philosophy of research is not just limited to sociology students, rather it's an overarching subject which is useful not only to social sciences but also to science students. So here in this lecture, I would like to bring or put forth some of the ideas which uh, the philosophers have generated over a period and which have been discussed at length and then are in the uh, wide circulation among the academia and across the universities. These thoughts are shared and discussed. And see, philosophy of research is not about uh, a kind of question answer module. It is about inculcating a sense of uh, reason among students. It is kind of reflecting on their own ideas, worldviews, and in that process to reflect upon their own disciplines. So it's a basically a tool which opens up their ideas and then also enables them to learn as well as de-learn. So in this during the next 45 minutes or so, I will be dealing with the fundamentals of philosophy of research. And broadly, I will be dealing with philosophy of social science research. And as part of this, I will be going into a bit of history of research and then history of science and how social sciences have emerged uh, as a result of the efforts of Comte's idea of positivist philosophy, and what happened later on as a kind of post-positivist discourse in sociology and also in social sciences. So, if we a cursory glance about philosophy of research will definitely take you to the idea of or the concept of epistemology. Epistemology is the branch of philosophy which deals with knowledge or which problematizes knowledge. Epistemology is that branch of philosophy which looks at theory of knowledge. So it's a very rich domain within the philosophy, and it was much in debate when the modern science was evolving. So as such, knowledge itself, the idea of knowledge itself underwent several uh, transitions in the due course before the evolution of what is called as science or what is otherwise also called as modern philosophy. So when we talk about this, are we suggesting that knowledge is seen only in modern society? Was there no knowledge in the pre-modern society? If there was knowledge in the pre-modern society, what was the form of such knowledge and how knowledge evolved from pre-modern to modern philosophy? So, any cursory glance will take you to Aristotle's philosophy of knowledge, Aristotle's discourse on knowledge, right? And then there are several other philosophers, great philosophers who talked about knowledge or problematized knowledge itself. And one consensical or consensual understanding is that knowledge is nothing but a subset of belief and facts. knowledge is a subset of belief and facts. So the point they raise is that there are beliefs and at the same time there are facts, right? So knowledge is that subset which constitutes both facts and beliefs. So in simple terms, if we say knowledge is that belief which is factual, right? So fact is different and belief is different. So there are many beliefs and as well as there are many facts. So not all facts become knowledge or not all beliefs can be considered as knowledge. For example, belief in the idea of life after death, for example, life after death. So there are belief systems across cultures, right? Starting from mummifying dead bodies in Egypt to ancient Chinese knowledge or Indian knowledge, like the idea of rebirth in the Indian philosophy. So it's a mere belief. Similarly, on the hypothesis or bold conjectures scientists made, like life on other planets, right? So life on other planets apart from Earth may be a possibility, but at the moment it is a belief. Why we call it as a belief? Because it is not established as a fact. So similarly, there are facts, facts about natural laws, facts about social laws, for example, which are unknown. There are several missing links in the Darwin's idea of evolution of species, right? There are several missing links. So we keep coming or keep noticing new species which are not recorded by Darwin, for example. So that means uh, there may be uh, different species under seas, right? Or there are different microorganisms which are not known, not known to us, but there are facts, right? So there are facts as well as beliefs. So what constitutes then knowledge? The knowledge that is established fact or established the the belief which is proven with facts. So and this knowledge is kind of evolving. It is not that it is static; it is dynamic. And knowledge is always socially situated or socially conditioned. So it is knowledge is not above the social uh, uh, conditions of the times. For example, there was a knowledge which was widely circulated on on what is called as Earth is flat, right? So it prevailed. This kind of knowledge prevailed for a long time until it was proven that Earth is not flat, round. Rather, it is round in shape. So similarly, we moved from geocentric idea to heliocentric knowledge. So that knowledge gets transitioned, and then in the process, the pioneers of such knowledge also get prosecuted, whether it is Galileo, Copernicus, or several other scholars who have been punished. And I also give the example that on the count that knowledge is not static, rather dynamic, that our generation, we learned in our schooling that there are 9 planets, right? But now we are teaching that there are 8 planets. So it is not static, rather dynamic, and it is also evolving. So this is a fundamental uh, point which any researcher has to keep in mind that uh, knowledge is evolving, and we as researchers contribute to the existing pool of knowledge, and we should not shy away from debunking some of the existing theories and coming out with uh, new theories which can be proven right. So if knowledge is subset of belief and fact, then there are other questions which arise about what constitutes scientific knowledge and how scientific knowledge is differentiated from other forms of knowledge. It is not that knowledge is given by only scientists, right? Even before the emergence of modern science, there was knowledge and that was proven. For example, healing or health and sickness. So there are several remedies which were available to cure certain diseases, right? And there are several knowledge systems which explained certain natural phenomena. So then what differentiates the scientific knowledge from other forms of knowledge? To simply put it, knowledge is nothing but, science is nothing but certified knowledge, right? So this actually differentiates from other forms of knowledge. So there are other forms of knowledge, but only science is certified. Science is that knowledge which is certified. So thus, science has kind of privileged position among all forms of knowledge. So the certification in sciences comes through established procedures which are standardized. So there are standardized procedures which make a knowledge claim scientific. So only such knowledge claims with which withstand the scrutiny of procedures, scientific procedures like verifiability and validation, right? Observability, verifiability, and validation becomes established as not scientific as scientific knowledge. So the other forms of knowledge, which may be true, which may be valid, but they cannot be considered as science because they are yet to undergo the process of scientific scrutiny or validity. So we before we go into the methods of social sciences and Comtean idea of positivist philosophy, we must understand the evolution of science as such. See, philosophers suggest the journey of knowledge or journey of science from pre-modern philosophy to modern philosophy. So they explain along three lines or along three elements, that is man, nature, and reason. So the suggestion is that man is a unique species, right? And explain man's relation with nature. I'm using a generic term, a very old term. Don't take objection to this gender insensitive term as man, but for the explanation purpose, I'm using it for the convenience sake. So, in understanding the relation between man and nature, it was said that man's dependency on nature is inevitable, right? Man's dependency on where is it? Man's dependency on nature is inevitable, and nature is uh, overwhelming, and nature has a logic of its own, and man can explore nature to the extent that it permits. It looks little abstract, but it is very interesting and important to know this relationship, because this actually paved way for the emergence of what is called as science. So nature uh, is to be looked at as text, or nature is something sacred, right? And it is the creation of God, and nature imposes certain limitations on human beings. So this was the kind of relationship between man and nature. and this is how philosophers explain in term to suggest the fact that nature is the creation of God, and then any critical inquiry into nature is not acceptable to God because you are questioning the creation of God. So that is why uh, any exploration into nature or the natural principles or principles of nature or laws of nature were never done during the pre-modern philosophy era. So this actually place limitations on human beings and their thinking. So this started to change during the period of Renaissance, right? The period of reason and enlightenment, which altered the relationship between man and nature. So over a period, philosophers have started to question these notions and started to suggest that nature is nothing but a totality of facts or a bundle of facts. So nature is not to be treated as text or a sacred text because nature is nothing but a totality of facts. Nature does not impose any limitations on human beings. In fact, all these explanations about nature are socially conditioned or socially created. So it is not the creation of God, rather it is the value system of nature is created by human beings or rather situated in society. So, and they also proposed the idea that nature lies outside human world, outside man, right? And this actually led to an interesting or triggered a series of explorations when it suggested that anything that lies outside man is or could be an object of research, right? So nature's influence on man is not overwhelming, and nature is not to be treated as a sacred text, right? So earlier they used to say that who was the writer of this text? If you have to treat it as a text, that means only you can interpret. Then who was the writer of the text? So the church, the predominant religion, which actually uh, paved way for the emergence of modern science, suggested that it is created by God, right, and interpreted by religious leaders or church. So thus they avoided any critical inquiries or discouraged any critical inquiries into nature. But in the new form, wherein nature is objectified, nature lies outside human beings, and nature is amenable for critical inquiry, then it opened up the floodgates. So we can, as human beings who have the unique capacity to reason, right, can understand nature, can understand the natural laws or laws behind occurrence of, for example, floods or day and nights or light or air or the plant or other species. So anything that lies outside man is an object of research now. So this actually paved way for the subject-object division. So until we achieved this subject-object division, knowledge could not grow further, right? So once this division was achieved, then knowledge began to grow in the form of what it was called as modern philosophy. And later, this modern philosophy was called as science. So when modern philosophy gained the methods of research or methods of inquiry, it attained what is called as science. So there are two important things. One, as a sociologist, I cannot resist from speaking about this particular fact. So how the society which was actually objecting to any critical inquiry into nature by any individual started to admit new researches or new findings on nature. So this was a shift occurred within the religious discourse. Particularly, the church uh, started looking at these emerging dynamics differently. So, if you look at the early contributors of any discipline, whether it is chemistry or botany or physics, several of them were clergymen. That means mostly they were religious preachers. They came from church. So what is interesting is initially church started funding explorations. In fact, Darwin's was also an exploratory study, right? So he went on exploration uh, to different places. And several of these clergymen, because they had all the leisure and all the leisure time and money, so they could spend their time in exploring nature. But how it was allowed? So the church gave a different explanation about this. So all these explorations are not to critique or criticize God, rather to explain the beauty of God's creation. So you might have heard the term in glory of God or God's glory. To understand the God's glory or to praise the God's creation. So it was in the initial stages, these clergymen were encouraged to explore nature to understand the beauty of God's creation. So this actually led to critical inquiries, and which is very significant from sociological point of view. And then society began to transform to new era of reason and to uh, new era what is called as scientific era or era where knowledge claims are supported by uh, scientific uh, basis or evidence or verification. So, modern philosophy, which became or which evolved as science, and this evolution also did not take place overnight, or it underwent uh, several phases of transformation. So then arose the question of what constitutes science. If we say science is nothing but modern philosophy, but how this modern philosophy or the explanations based on modern philosophy uh, can be considered as valid knowledge claims. So then the uh, questions on the validity of these knowledge claims came into picture, and philosophers have discussed at length. So you come across the terms like inductivism and deductivism. So at one place, during the emergence of modern science, it was considered that induction is the method of science. Induction as the method of science. You start with uh, specifics, right? And specific observations, and you arrive at generalizable laws. So make several observations and observe and make general laws. So you move with induction, or it was in the early phase of the evolution of modern science, particularly in sciences. Uh, it was relying merely on observations. So any knowledge claim that was not observable was vetoed or was not considered as scientific knowledge claim. So that means they remained with uh, observability. or observable facts, right? So observation thus remained the key element in arriving at knowledge claims in science. So that a phrase is there, like you start with observation, remain with observation, and end with observation. So that was the position of science, which privileged observation alone. But then the critic came in the form that if you remain with observation, science cannot grow in novelty and breadth, because there are several laws or several principles which cannot be explained with observations alone, or there are several natural process, which cannot be explained with mere observation. So then came the idea of hypothesis. So you make hypothetical observations, implying relationship between certain unobservables, right? For example, uh, hereditary or inheritance. So offsprings inherit features of parents, right? Whether it is in plants, animals, or human beings. So there is a natural principle called inheritance, which actually postulated as a scientific law or scientific hypothesis, stating that there is a relationship between the features of offsprings with that of parents, right? And this has to be explained scientifically. So you look at Mendelian genetics, right? And also other research which went into genetics, and then which actually led to the field of the discipline called plant breeding over a period. So you science can move beyond observable by raising certain hypotheses, right? And these hypotheses are tentative statements. The beauty of hypotheses is that they are eternally tentative. Tentative statements implying relationship between certain ideas or certain concepts. So these hypotheses are to be verified, to be checked, to be corroborated, or to be examined. And if you fail to verify or if you fail to corroborate, so these hypotheses are not considered as valid, and the knowledge claims will be nullified. So hypothesis thus or has enlarged the scope for science to move beyond observable to unobservable. And based on these hypotheses, at the next stage came the idea of theories. So theories are always stated in abstract terms, right? And theories are, in fact, theories played a very important role in the evolution of science. So they say that theories are useful fictions, useful fictions. So when you float a theory, they are nothing but bold conjectures, bold conjectures. So it's a bold guess, right? About, for example, existence of life on other planets, or to simple fact that there is something called Earth's force. That's why it attracts any object that is thrown into air. So that was verified, and you have the theory called gravity or gravitational force. So it remains in abstract terms. It is not verifiable uh, through naked eye, right? It is not like a stone uh, that can be explained, or that's a tangible object which can be used to explain. But it is a useful fiction, and it played an important role in explaining certain process, like why say the classical example of why apple fall, or apple or fruits fall, or any object that is thrown into air falls down, comes back. So thus theories have played a very important role. They are useful. That's why they are called as useful fictions. Useful fictions. So, and still they play a very important role. For example, the importance of longitudes and latitudes in aviation industry, right? Without which entire aviation industry would collapse. So they are imaginary lines. Longitudes and latitudes are nothing but imaginary lines. So you don't see them physically, but they play a very important role. Similarly, in social sciences, we have a concept, very popular concept called class. So it is an imaginary concept floated by Karl Marx, but it is very useful to understand the social divisions. So in social sciences as well as natural sciences, there are several theories which have played a vital role or very important role in the growth of these sciences. So thus, hypothesism emerged as an important field within the methods of science. So we moved from induction or inductivism to hypothesism, and then we also have the notion of deductivism. So uh, often it is suggested that if method of science is uh, inductivism, then what is the method of social science? Is it deductivism? It may not be. Deductivism also applies to sciences, right? You move from uh, general to specific. So you derive uh, from general laws to specific observations, and either you refute or corroborate the theories, right? This is where you have to uh, appreciate the efforts of early scientists like or philosophers of science like Karl Popper, the idea of falsification. So he visualized the pitfalls of going for confirming hypothesis. So hypothesis has its own dangers, right? So if scientists subscribe to hypothesis, then there is a tendency among scientists to look for verifiable data or sources of that data which actually enables them to verify. So thus you have the idea of null hypothesis. You never try to uh, confirm hypothesis, rather try to refute. And if you fail to refute, that means say that you are corroborating. So always attempt to refute data. That's the idea of null hypothesis. Null hypothesis states that there is no relationship. Uh, there is a beauty in this. For example, if you start with the statement that there is no relationship, then you try to figure out, try to find out data to support your null hypothesis. That means, say, if you fail to support your null hypothesis, that means say that you are establishing a kind of relationship between two variables. So that is placed as alternate hypothesis. So these two are very important in any scientific as well as science research as well as social science research. So falsification also attempts to highlight these pitfalls in uh, science research, whether in research in sciences or social sciences. You try to falsify. If you fail to falsify, then your knowledge claim stands. So, if method of science is induction and method of social science is not necessarily deduction, rather over a period it has been accepted that method of social science could be interpretation. So it need not subscribe to the idea of induction, rather it is interpretation, interpretativism, right? So interpretation of social reality becomes the method of social science. And Marx went beyond to suggest that if we uh, interpret the empirically observable empirically observable actions as that of science, then social sciences cannot grow, or social sciences cannot explain uh, the laws governing society. So he actually resisted the idea of equating social action with events like natural events. So you cannot equate social actions with that of natural events. So social actions are something more. So you cannot merely interpret by observing these events. Rather, you have to understand the intentions behind the social actions. So intentions have to be interpreted from different perspectives. So he came out with the idea of exploitation by the capitalist class of the working class. So if as long as you interpret, you remain with interpretation, you find it unproblematic. For example, capitalists pay wages and workers work for wages. So it is a very beautiful scenario wherein there is a mutual understanding. So if you remain with that, you wouldn't have arrived at the idea of exploitation, right? Exploitation, surplus value, right? How capitalists work with the agenda of creating a surplus value. So thus it is important to uh, go beyond the observable actions and understand intentions. And this actually opened up to several fields within social sciences. For example, feminist scholarship emerged out of this critical understanding of social reality. So, feminists started to question the ideas of patriarchy. For example, if you explain uh, the structure of family from a functionalist perspective, you find no problem, or it becomes unproblematic. It looks unproblematic. But feminists started to question these roles, statuses, and relations to understand the intentions. Similarly, the disability scholarship also problematizes this normative structure. So the built environment or the social uh, spaces which were problematized in disability research. The very natural setting which becomes unproblematic for the normal or able-bodied persons becomes problematic for disabled. For example, the corridor which we imagine is unproblematic for us, and then we, without giving any second thought, we try to dump all the uh, unwanted material like desks, tables, or chairs in the corridors because we are right, or normal people are right in their own way because they never had the idea of the visually challenged using the same corridor who finds on one fine day suddenly that there are obstructions placed in the corridor which was otherwise walkable. So which actually tries to open up our or helps us to open up our thinking by looking at the critical, uh, by looking at the very simple aspect like a corridor, right? Which is looked at differently by different sections of users, a visually challenged student as well as a normal or able-bodied student. So there is a lot of discourse on this. For example, the idea of ramps, the idea of lifts, the idea of tactiles. So there are these perspectives, whether it is feminist perspective or whether it is subaltern perspective or disability perspective. So these actually help the researchers to look at social reality from a different dimension and explain the reality from valid standpoint. So, philosophy of research has to be understood in the sense from the sense of making knowledge claims or contributing new knowledge, because research is nothing but contributing to new knowledge. So it is not that we are reinventing the wheel or we are redoing what earlier or others have done or have been doing. So, for example, a PhD research is kind of expected to provide or contribute new knowledge to the pool, whether it is in sociology or economics or political science or natural sciences. So, one has to critically engage with the existing knowledge pool and then identify the knowledge gaps or the gaps in the literature, and then come out with new hypotheses or statements or research questions, and then explore. Here, one advice to the research scholars is that review of literature should not be treated as a rhetoric. Of late, due to many reasons, one of the reasons is the availability of literature these days online, and the new devil, that is AI, has come in, which further simplified the process of review of literature, right? So, so review of literature should not be seen as a mundane task. Rather, review of literature is the first critical step in any research process. So, review of literature is not that not about reporting who has what X has done, what Y has done, what Z has done, but we have to explore why X has made such claims and in what circumstances and in what conditions these claims can be found true, or what X has missed, from what perspective X has proposed these claims, what could have been the outcome if the X had looked at the reality from a different point of view. So these are the critical questions one should raise while reviewing the literature. So thus again coming back to philosophy of research and knowledge. So it is knowledge that matters. Knowledge that it is not how you have arrived at or why you have arrived at, but what is that knowledge which is being acceptable now, right? And why it should be acceptable, why it cannot be questioned. So, criticizing, or it is not merely criticizing, rather a critic of existing knowledge uh, actually helps you to identify new research questions or arrive at new research questions. So my sincere suggestion is that review of literature is not to be taken casually. So it actually helps you or opens up the field to you and to come out with uh, very valid and contemporary research questions, right? So, epistemology, in fact, problematizes knowledge that, for example, uh, 2 plus 2 is 4, it's a fact, but epistemology questions the idea that why it is called as 2 and why it is called as 4, or what is called as 4, what is called as 2. So, there are several examples. And there are also ontological questions like the applications of ontology are all pervasive, whether it is sociology or sciences. For example, scientists uh, did not remain with phenotypic features. For example, if you take inheritance, so children inherit the features of parents you have law of inheritance, but scientists did not remain with the law of inheritance. Then they further inquired actually what transmits, what is responsible for carrying the features of parents to offsprings. So then they arrived at what is called as gene. So genes are responsible for carrying the features of parents to offsprings, whether in plants, animals, or human beings. So then you have the idea of genotype. So there are genotypes. So then the DNA structure, unveiling or unraveling of the DNA structure helped us to identify which gene actually is responsible for transmitting certain features. Then scientists did not remain with gene. Then what constitutes gene? What is that called as gene? Then they're talking in terms of uh, protein structures. Genes are nothing but protein structures, right? So, uh, so what are these proteins? So now you look at from molecular biology within the field of molecular biology to genes, and now the research is at subgenomic level, right? Similarly, atom was problematized, and now the research is going on subatomic and quantum level, right? So, and other example you can say, we did not remain, or physicists did not remain with the idea of light. So, what constitutes light was the fundamental question, an ontological question. So, then you have the idea of spectrum of light. So, light constitutes a spectrum. If you have infrared and ultraviolet, so it's a spectrum, broad spectrum. So, light is not simply light, but it is nothing but spectrum of light. So, it opened up new fields of research. So, thus, ontological questions are very important in any discipline, whether it is in social sciences or sciences. And these questions are to be explored, or uh, researchers must make an effort to raise these questions in the initial stage of research, that is during the review of literature stage. So don't simply record what others said. You identify the gaps. You try to find gaps in their research, why they have not done, or why you are not accepting easily what they have given. That means problematize knowledge. So that is the crux of epistemology, and that is the crux of philosophy of research. So I stop here, and if there are any clarifications, questions, we can proceed further.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful talk. Definitely, our learners and our students will be benefited through your lecture. I request Raghavendra to coordinate some online participants ask some questions.
Yeah.
Please.
Before that, now open for all. Any questions?
Any questions also?
Yeah, please. Yeah. All the participants, any questions and doubts? No. That is not a question, sir. This is a suggestions for the student side. When they yeah, just can you just go?
Nicholas?
Good luck.
Professor, I understood that the concept of rebirth is often considered belief rather than an established fact.
Sir, one participant named Anil Nair, so he asked that, Professor, I understand that the concept of rebirth is often considered as a belief rather than an established fact. However, I feel that beliefs can originate from facts, and but sometimes those facts may be lost or not accessible to everyone. So this is a question, sir. And would you like to respond on this?
No, the fault or fallacy in the question is that not all beliefs are facts. So there are beliefs and there are facts, right? So they become established as knowledge once these uh, beliefs are verified with or found to be factual, right? So still, the concept of rebirth is in the belief domain. It is not yet established as fact, although there are several theories floated that so and so took birth, and then the child is able to recall his or his or her old birth place, names of children, and all. We keep hearing as stories, but not verified.
Yeah, next I think question.
Yeah, next,
Same time.
same one. Okay,
Not many, yeah, it is same
it is the same. Yeah,
continuation of that.
continuation of sir.
No question, huh?
Sir, with the permission and
Where can we find online classes or MS?
that is a general question.
That is our website link.
Yeah. Sir, thank you, sir, for this wonderful thing. I mean, the lecture and I have delivered today. I have a question, sir. This is regarding the AI tools. Now, the entire academic world is celebrating AI tools. But I have a problem with the tool, sir. And for instance, and when we deal with the social sciences, particularly the sociology as a subject, and we deal with the social dynamic nature of society, so that is not static and it keeps changing from time to time. So when we apply such AI tools to understand the social dynamic nature of that society, I find problematic because AI tools are generally designed to understand the static nature of the objects, and it gives the same result again and again. So it is possible in the natural sciences, but when it comes to the social sciences as such, and how do we understand such challenge? On the one hand, people are celebrating the AI tools in the social science research, but on the other hand, there are certain setbacks and the drawbacks about the usage of those tools, and how do we understand this complex situation and challenges that are associated with this usage of AI tools? Could you please elaborate on this, sir?
Yeah, yeah. AI is like how to see AI as a friend or a enemy. So there are actually, it depends on the way we use it. Uh, it is it can be your co-learner or co-worker or a friend, right? Or as a guide, right? But at the same time, reliance on AI completely will actually take you backward. So there are limitations of AI use, and there are ethics concerning the use of AI in research. So AI is, of course, a wonderful tool. It can actually hasten the research process. Uh, but as we have seen, that it cannot provide information about or knowledge about what is existing in the discipline completely. It has its limitations. It provides knowledge to which it has access. Sometimes it is outdated, right? And not up to date. And thus, it has limitations. Whereas your online journals or articles, and sometimes I'm not sure, this is still evolving. We have to research further that to what extent these important journals, prestigious journals like Sage, Taylor and Francis, etc., allow AI tools to access their journal database. And if you actually verify these sources of AI, they are all very mundane and superficial uh, or papers which are published in some kind of low-grade journals. Only classical works which are available or made available online through e-content, it can check, but latest articles or very journals or articles in prestigious journals, AI cannot access. So thus, I also suggest to my students in the class that AI should be seen as a calculator, but not as a computer. So you can simply use calculator to calculate the different repeated tasks, but you cannot rely on it. It cannot generate on its own anything, right? So there are limitations to identify, because if you ask AI to give me a list of articles on a particular field or in a particular field, it generates. That actually simplifies the process. Then from there you have to take an effort to check these journals from different sources. So there are several paid sources which these AI tools are not allowed, though they do not have access, right? And there are also ethics of usage. Unfortunately or fortunately, all these PhD theses are now available, made available in what is that called as?
Shodhganga.
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 Yes.
Shodhganga. So a student who is unethical can easily use this Shodhganga and using any AI and can produce thesis within 6 months, right? So there are pitfalls. So that's why again, value system, which philosophers talk about, ethics, which again philosophers talk about, uh, are very important to be taught even in research methods courses, right? Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and delivering your valuable talk on philosophy and social, sir. Thank you once again, Department of Sociology on my own behalf. Thank you so much, sir. Now I request the Professor, Dr. Raghavendra, our department colleague, a former vote of thanks. I propose to formal vote of thanks.
Sir, it gives me immense pleasure. In fact, it's an honor for me to give vote of thanks, to my favorite sir, Raghu Reddy sir, and I'm your student during
Yeah.
HCU days, and thank you, sir. It's always a learning experience with you, and today also you. Thank you so much. Uh, but in this regard, sir, I sincerely thank respected our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Ganta Chakrapani, sir. I also thank our respected Professor Pushpa Chakrapani Madam, Director Academic. And I also thank our Registrar, Dr. LVK, sir. And I also thank our respected Professor Srinivas Vadanam, sir, and who is kind enough, is very kind enough to give us permission and to participate in this webinar, sir. Thank you so much, Dean Faculty of Social Sciences. And I thank all the participants, and particularly the Ramana sir and Professor Ramana sir, as well as our head, Professor Srinivas sir, for joining us here, and all the participants and those who joined online and offline. And thank you so much, sir. And thank you once again, sir. I know despite you have a lot of busy schedule, and you have accepted our invitation and to give your valuable message to today, sir. Thank you so much once again, sir. It's so learning experience.
Okay, sir.